Are you serious about your health and fitness, but overwhelmed by the conflicting information and BS all over social media? Welcome to Fit Facts, brought to you by Brandon Pascual and Gabe Erno. With a combined 10 years of training experience, this physical therapist and personal trainer duo bring you the most up-to-date and applicable fitness and lifestyle tips based on the most cutting-edge research, bridged with field experience of what actually works and is sustainable for the long term. Enjoy. I'm going shopping at Costco right after this, dude, and I've been enjoying Costco. Let me tell you why, okay? Got a Costco membership maybe 3 months ago. First time I go, I did it wrong. I see all these shiny, appealing things, right?
Put them all in your cart.
Giant jug of sauerkraut. Fuck yes.
Why would you even want
random breaded, microwavable fish, high protein. Yes. My fucking Costco bill was like $400, dude.
And how long did it last you?
It lasted a while, but honestly, like a lot of the produce I got in bulk, I ended up throwing away.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So like, I did it wrong, but then I learned. You go in with a specific list. Mm-hmm. You only get what's on your list. You resist all the shiny things. And now, like, I go to Costco once. I got groceries for 2 weeks. I'm saving money from what I used to spend. So I like the Costco life. The other day, I went in. I'm like, you know what? I need to check my tire pressure. Boom. I need to get some gas. Boom. I need to get some groceries. Check. All at Costco.
That's pretty smart because I live like 5 minutes away from Costco and I've only been to Costco maybe 3 or 4 times. We only go there for paper towels or toilet paper.
Interesting.
To get them in bulk, but
I should do that because I order them off Amazon.
Oh, what the hell? Did you go to Costco?
Dude.
Yeah, because every time we go to Costco, like what you said, we would try to get like vegetables there.
Yeah.
But they would always go bad after like a week. So
exactly.
But
I get frozen veggies though.
Yeah,
right?
the frozen veggies. Yeah, that's what my girlfriend gets right now. But still, I'm more of a Trader Joe's, Vaughn's.
I like TJ's, dude. TJ's complements Costco very well.
Really?
Yeah, because they have some more good specific niche stuff.
That's true.
That Costco doesn't have. And TJ's is actually fairly priced, I think.
Honestly, some people think that Trader Joe's is like super bougie, but they're actually not. Yeah, it's not.
No,
like some of their stuff is like almost the same as like Vaughn's and Ralph's.
I'm telling you. In fact, Ralph's is kind of bougie, actually.
Ralph's is.
If we're being real, Ralph's is bougie.
Yeah, that's why I like shopping at Vaughn's a lot better. Vaughn's is my go-to, dude, because I have their coupon app. Or their little app on my phone.
Yeah.
And I always have like deals. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll get like $9 points. I'm like, all right, awesome.
Dude, I'm gonna know I made it financially when I just only shop at Whole Foods. It's not financially responsible. I'm like, groceries. Let's go to Whole Foods.
Hey, Barron's and
No, Barron's is, I feel like not even. No, it's like the same level as Whole Foods. I like Barron's.
What about Sprouts? No, actually, Sprouts is pretty good.
Sprouts is good too. Yeah. I like all the spots. But if I can just go to Whole Foods and just buy like. Dude, I remember Rao's tomato sauce, delicious tomato sauce, marinara sauce. Costco has like 2 for $10. I remember like $12.99 for just like one thing of tomato sauce.
At Whole Foods?
At Whole Foods.
The only thing I've ever eaten at Whole Foods was like go to their like takeout and then I got their orange chicken. That orange chicken was like almost $30.
Dude, there you go.
I was like,
what the hell?
And it was all right, but I was like, damn, this is not worth it. But
you know, when we shop, we're trying to be healthy most of the time.
Yeah.
And today, this is what the episode's all about. We're here at the Cal Home Co. Studios. Shout out to Hennish Polakul. Thank you for letting us film here. And we're talking about practical applications to improve your health. This is a presentation I made for my networking group maybe a month or 2 ago. And me and Brandon are just going to go through it. Because today what we're going to talk about is a lot of the current state of health in America. A lot of things about diet and fitness maybe you're not familiar with. Maybe you are, but it's great to reinforce it. And then just like practical steps you can take to improve your health in a sustainable way. So without further ado, let's jump in. What is the current state of health like in America? Well, guys, the life expectancy at birth is 76.1. That is the average American is going to live to be 76 years old as of 2021. Those are 2021 statistics. And this is crazy because have you seen there's like the whole Blue Zone documentary that came out on Netflix?
Yeah, some people are talking about it.
And like the Blue Zones are areas where people live extra long. So I think like 100 or like, there's a lot of centenarians, people who live over the age of 100 in these Blue Zones. And there's all these like common themes of like what they do. And there's like, they obviously they move more. Their diets are really rich in like lower calorie, higher micronutrient rich foods, more whole foods. Okay. They have like family and community. Like there's all these commonalities. And then you look at the average age in America and you're like 76. Wait, like I don't want to live to 76. I want to live way past that. So you start to like kind of like piece together like, okay, like we're clearly doing something wrong, Yeah. And then so 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese. 2/3.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And not California.
I mean, I don't know. It's probably still decently high in California, but definitely I recently was in Texas, and you see it a little differently when you go to the South and stuff too,
for sure.
where everyone's eating Cane's chicken on the regular stuff. But yeah, that's a really substantial amount of Americans that are overweight or obese. We all know it's not optimal for your health to be overweight or obese, right? But that's still a high number. So just to go over some brief effects, and I'm sure a lot of you know this, but some health effects of being overweight or obese, obviously there's increased chances of cardiovascular issues, strokes, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, like I mentioned. So that is all really, really tied to being overweight or obese. Yet heart disease is the leading cause of death in America. So this is crazy. Let's frame it like this. The biggest cause of death in America is largely preventable. So sure, maybe there's some really, really rare situations where the person just genetically they're so predisposed and they can exercise, they can do all these things, and they're still gonna pass away of heart disease. That's possible. However, even those people with exercise and diet are gonna extend their lives a lot. But this is a lifestyle disease. Heart disease is something that is largely preventable just by improving your lifestyle, and yet it's the leading killer in America. So that, to me, what that says is either we don't fully understand that, or just knowing that on kind of a logical level isn't compelling enough for us to actually make changes. Because otherwise, I feel you'd hear that and you'd go, okay, I don't want that to be me, right? I want something to change.
Right, yeah. And also I actually had a conversation with the trainer that I work out with in our last session, where it's what's your motivation for working out?
Yeah.
And a lot of us, both of us said oh, because we wanted to have chicks like us back when we were teenagers.
Yeah, when you're young.
It's all for the females, you know what I mean? But then as I started growing up and seeing some of my family members pass away from diseases and all that, I'm oh crap, maybe I want to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm the most fittest one in my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the one that goes work out consistently, because I don't want to unfortunately end up like them or have a short lifespan. So I guess
of course
that kind of kept me going. So yeah, it is unfortunate that will be your motivator.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
And I think it's interesting too, now that we're getting into our late 20s, you start to see people who you went to high school with who maybe they're not doing anything extreme, but just from their general sedentary lifestyle, they haven't changed their diet at all.
Right.
Late 20s was when you start to see people who, in high school were, fit, normal physique people. Now they're getting substantially overweight. And you start to go, oh, this is kind of the general trend of just how our diets don't really change, but our total daily energy expenditure drops a lot because we're not really exercising. Maybe we're playing sports in high school. And then every year you're adding a couple pounds, and it just constantly are in this caloric surplus.
Right.
10, 20 years you look back, you're I'm a different person right now. My health is way worse. So I think one thing you mentioned too is there's usually an emotional reason that people can do these things. And I think a lot of people, they hear the logical reasons of it is going to decrease your risk of cardiovascular disease. But we don't identify emotionally with that. That feels very distant. It's sure, nobody wants that. But there's going to be different, more compelling reasons that you're going to have to attach to really actually sustainably want to make a change. And maybe it is those things, and like you said, you see a family member who experienced it, and then that hits more close to home. But before we jump into that, let's just go over some of the general benefits of exercise. So improvements of mental health is huge for me. This is one of the biggest reasons I work out. If I could never make any physical progress ever again, I would still be exercising continuously, because it's impacted my mental health in such a positive way. And it's not just me. There's statistics, there's studies coming out that are showing that exercise is just effective as, if not more effective than most antidepressants for most people, right? So, if you struggle with low to moderate levels of anxiety or depression and you're not exercising, exercise is something that could substantially improve that. And that for me is super compelling, because I feel good, I feel clearer, I feel more stable when I'm exercising. Another is boosted metabolism, and what's cool about this is there's going to be a reduced risk of metabolic disease. Metabolic disease meaning diseases related to obesity. So as you gain weight, if you have less muscle mass, your body's a lot more susceptible to things like that. But also, the more muscle you have on your frame, you're just burning more calories. So let's take two people. They both weigh 200 pounds. One person weighs 200 pounds and more of it is fat mass, and he has less muscle mass. The other person at 200 pounds, he has more muscle mass. The one with more muscle mass, just at rest, by not doing anything, he's burning more calories constantly. So he can, first of all, he's at less of a risk of all these diseases.
Yeah.
But also, he can just eat more.
Yep.
and way less because he has a higher fiery metabolism. And that's something that I know with all my clients, I'm always trying to reinforce is like, sure, cardiovascular we want, sure, diet we want for your weight loss goals, but also we want to gain muscle because we're boosting your metabolism that way.
Yeah.
And like, as you get older, we have like these huge drops in, you know, our resting metabolic rate. And the biggest reason, there could be a couple other factors, but like the main reason that occurs is because as you age, you start to lose muscle mass.
Yeah.
When you lose muscle mass, you have like less actively metabolically active tissue. You're burning less calories. So that's like part of the reason people tend to gain weight more as they age. So just fucking lift weights, keep the muscle on. It's very important, you know. So that's huge. Anything you'd add to either of those, Brandon? I'm just kind of reading over some notes I made.
Honestly, that stuff is true right there. Actually, I listened to a podcast recently where they said like where she was saying how half of America isn't actually overweight, or 2/3 of America isn't overweight. It's like they're under muscled.
So yeah, I mean, I get what she's saying. I think she's like trying to say that like maybe if they had more muscle mass, their whole body composition would shift.
Yeah, or like they aim to get stronger instead of like America's like target of saying, hey, let's all try to lose weight. But it's like, no, let's try to build muscle.
Yeah, and I agree with that because that's what I do with a lot of my clients too. I'm like, yeah, we want to get you to lose fat, but like gaining muscle is actually going to be just as critical in this whole process. Obviously too, as you get older, usually, especially for women, your bone density gets worse. So there's like, first of all, osteoporosis. I mean, resistance training is huge to stop that from taking over.
Yeah.
But also like you hear all these cases of like older people who they fall and they break their hip. And then once they break their hip, then they recover, but they're not walking as fast, and like their mortality now, like they die way sooner.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're resistance training and you have less likely, it's less likely to have these occurrences where you're going to break a bone or something. Like you're going to have a longer lifespan, most likely.
Yeah,
it's huge.
When I used to like work with like more like older adults for home health physical therapy,
Yeah.
I'd always like have them do some kind of like some form of squat. It's not gonna be like your typical barbell back squat, but it'll be like sitting down, standing up from like a higher seat. And then once they get better at that, I'm like, all right, cool. Let's either lower the seat down or let's add weight. So stuff like that.
Totally. Yeah, and like, you know, obviously walking and running, that's something, but like, you know, when you're walking and running, you're not training your upper body. You're not, you know, your bones in your upper body aren't really getting that resistance. So, you know, resistance training is huge.
Yep.
Also, cognitive health. Like as you get older, it's very typical to have cognitive decline. One of the reasons it's really good for your cognitive health, it's like you're like learning new skills. Like it's, you know, you're maybe not learning guitar or like learning a new sport or whatever, but it's like every time you do a new movement, your nervous system's like adapting to this new pattern, and it has to like learn these new patterns, which is keeping you cognitively, you know, making these new neural connections and neural pathways, which is huge as you get older, you know. What else? Boosted self-esteem. I felt this a lot. You know, like there's obviously like the general story of like a young kid who like gains muscle and feels more confident in himself. But I would take it even further. Like I think there's just a self-esteem and confidence that comes along with having a goal or a lifestyle that you know is beneficial for you, and you consistently are doing something that's good for you and benefits your health.
Yeah, like honestly, for me, when I first discovered working out, I actually skipped, like in high school, like social events and parties just like work out at the gym, because I'm thinking like, oh yeah, when I do this, I'll show up to like school one day and they'll be like, oh my god, Brandon, your muscles. But yeah, so I did have like kind of that muscle courage.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you first start working out. And even like for people like in their, not even like when you're a teenager, like even when you're like in your 30s or 40s, like especially like when I used to take like on personal training clients, they would feel more different. They would actually talk a lot more and they would tell me about like things at work, like, oh yeah, my coworker was able to invite me out to, you know, this gathering they were having. I was like, oh cool, so you're getting more invites, you're being more social. So like indirectly affects your social life also.
Yeah, I've had clients who I've been training 2 to 3 years now, and I've seen total shifts in like who they are, who they identify as, because they're just this person who came in, they did something that initially was intimidating for them to come into the gym. They had no experience, but over time they built up this competency.
Yeah.
And they've been doing something that's positively affected them, and now they know they're the type of person who they consistently take actions that are benefiting their life. It's improving them as a person. And that kind of transitions too into, I think, fitness in general, but also resistance training, lifting weights, teaches success principles. So like as an entrepreneur or just a person who's trying to improve themselves, like you need to be disciplined. And that's something that comes from fitness. If you're not disciplined, there's going to be plenty of times when you don't want to go to the gym.
True.
I mean, a lot of the time I don't want to go to the gym, and I go anyway because I know that this is just what I do to get the results, and that applies to business. Also, I think delayed gratification is something else you experience. And I talked about this in Diana's podcast, which I was recently on. But like when you know that, okay, it takes time to see these results, and you can apply that to the rest of your life. Like if you have a goal with anything, you're going, this goal, my goal is to accomplish this in the next 3 to 5 years. I know this isn't going to be an overnight thing.
Yeah.
Then you can stay on that path. You can stay consistent. So I think, there's a lot of different areas where you just learn these principles that as an entrepreneur or just somebody who wants to be better in their relationships, better with their finances, like it all applies.
Yeah, it's all about just like kind of showing up even on days that you don't want to show up kind of thing.
100%.
Yeah, especially for me, it's like when I try to like make the habit, because for me, even I'm still inconsistent with it, but at least like 5 days out the week, I try to prep all like my clothes or all my stuff for the night of, like for the morning of. I try to prep it all the night before. So like when I wake up, I don't have to like I don't have to like worry about that stuff. So I've been starting to make that a habit now. I'm trying to make it 7 days a week, but I feel like it's only the days when I have to like wake up early.
That's another good thing though. Preparation. That's something I've learned from resistance training too. Is like now in my business, if I have a consult with a client, even if I feel super confident, like it's in the bag, whatever, I'm still going to prepare.
Yeah.
Because I know that by preparing, I'm going to mentally feel more confident, more ready that whatever comes at me, I know how I'm going to approach all these different things. And that's come from knowing like, when I lift weights, I need to warm up, I need to prepare my body.
Exactly,
just like I need to prepare my mind for all these different situations. The last thing I'd say is like, we were talking about just exercise here. Some of the things are more specific to resistance training. Some are more specific to like cardiovascular training, running, jogging, whatever, swimming, anything like that trains your heart. But I think there's a lot of overlap here, and you should be doing both.
Yeah.
Diet facts, guys. We're going to go over some diet facts. So according to the latest weight loss research, what percentage of diets fail, do you think? Just hold a number in mind. And when I say fail, I mean maybe you lose weight, maybe you get to your goal, but within 2 years, you're gaining all that weight back. Brandon, I know you're looking at the number right now, but intuitively, when I say it's 95%, does that surprise you?
That did surprise me.
It's crazy. 95% of dieters end up regaining all the weight they lost within 2 years. And I think what's important to note here is that calorie restricting diets are oftentimes very effective, but for whatever reason, they're not sustainable in the long term. And when I look at the reasons why, when I look at the clients that I've worked with who have been successful, who have failed, who worked with other people in the past and have gained all the weight back, it's because ultimately these changes they're making are not sustainable in the long term for their lifestyle. Whether it's I'm eating 1,400 calories a day and I track every meal, but like I'm not going to do that all the time. It gets exhausting, whatever. Whether it's I'm on this vegan keto diet, but like that's not realistic for me to eat like that all the time. Whatever it is, you need to make changes that are sustainable for you. And that's why it's important to know there's no best diet, right? Like the human body is very adaptable. We can eat in a lot of different ways, but it's whatever, first of all, you feel good doing, you feel like it's something that you can consistently do in your lifestyle. Like, for some people, like tracking calories does work for the long term. Yeah. For other people, just focusing on eating like a more whole food, plant-based diet, that's going to be the best thing for them.
Yep.
But like whenever you're doing an extremes can be exciting because you can see a lot of rapid progress in the beginning, but it's hard to sustain extremes.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people fail is because they go, I need to make radical change. I'm going to take radical action, but then they don't sustain that radical action for the long term.
Like the all or nothing mentality. And
exactly.
They'll like burn themselves out because they're like, okay, never mind. And then once they realize that they're not able to keep up with the calorie restriction because they're on weekends, they're like, oh, there's a social event I have to go to. I gotta drink and eat with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's not sustainable to, keep saying no to all your friends and families.
Yeah, I think people then like they get burnt out and they realize like some people might develop a negative relationship with food where they're just kind of feeling like, oh, there's these good foods I can eat and these bad foods I can't eat.
Yeah.
Other people, it's different for everyone, but I think for most people, eat mainly whole foods, protein with every meal, and just try to eat until you're full.
Yep.
And stop there. If you're doing that, you're doing like 98% of what you should be doing, you know?
Yeah, there's no way to just like eat until, especially for like guys who are like trying to gain weight. They don't want to, you don't want to keep eating until like your stomach explodes or until you have to throw up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yep.
So, this obviously we're talking a lot on this podcast about like, this current state of health in America, how a lot of people are failing, and why should you strive for good health? Obviously we already went over some scientific reasons of why it's good for longevity, quality of life, all these things. But ultimately, Brandon, what I've learned, and I'm curious if you agree, scientific, logical reasons are never the most compelling. It's always the emotional reasons that are going to get people to buy a personal training package or to like make the change. It's always emotional reasons, whether it's like, I want to be there for my kid in 20 years. And like, I just had a prospective client come in and he's like, my knees are getting sore when I play basketball with my kids. Like, I want to 10 years from now still be able to play sports with my kids and like enjoy that time with them.
Yeah.
So it's always like the emotional thing. So I think rather than just going like, yeah, like I know obviously I should eat a certain way, I'm supposed to, like find a reason that's emotionally compelling.
Yeah, honestly, that is true. Even like for me, when I try to like tell my patients to do certain exercises for physical therapy, I don't tell them like, oh yeah, you're gonna, this will help improve knee mobility for, by 20%. I tell them like, hey, this will help you play with your grandkids a lot longer. This will help you actually enjoy playing pickleball on the weekends with your friends instead of like sitting on the sidelines when you're left out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, the emotional component is true, and that's when they want to make that change, that they're ready. They're like, okay, I'm ready to make the change. I'm ready to, start, warming up before pickleball, or, stop eating like processed foods.
Totally. And I think one thing I see in the fitness space a lot is like this whole conversation of optimal. What's the best way to do this exercise? Should you be at this angle? Should you do this many reps? But ultimately, like on a wider kind of note, what is optimal is just what's sustainable for you. And usually what's sustainable is something you're going to enjoy, that you actually like doing. So if I'm telling you to like lift weights and use a barbell, but you're like, I don't like doing that, but I like calisthenics, like then for you, calisthenics is a totally fine approach. So finding what's like enjoyable and optimal for you, I think is crucial. And then an interesting thought, I read this thing and I want to see what you think. I've heard people say that, health isn't like a moral duty. And I think, that's something that people have different perspectives on. Like, for instance, my family, they're Christians, and they believe as Christians that like the body is a temple of God and you have to treat it as such. So I think different people have different feelings about that. But whether you believe that it's ethically, you need to be healthy and take care of your body, I heard this thought that they said once you have kids, your health becomes an ethical responsibility. Because if you're not taking care of your health, you're not going to be able to be there for your kids in the best way.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like very impacted by that. I was like, wow, that is really, really interesting. So for me, that's compelling. I'm like, wow, I want to be there for my kids. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good family man,
Yeah, even for me, because like I recently became a dog dad. You know what I mean? So it's like if I was, if I didn't really focus on my health and I didn't want to like be active and get my steps in, or let's say like I, gained a lot of weight and then I have some kind of like cardiac disease, or I'm not able to like walk, then I'm not able to walk my dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I won't be able to walk him, so that means he'll start to gain weight and start getting other, cardiovascular.
You don't want that for Doug.
I know, but not for Doug. But yeah, so I can see how that is. I even tell like, I think there were like a bunch of like reels or Instagram posts that I saw like the other day. Were saying it's like if you're not fit right now, like whatever that quote was, where it's like if you're not fit right now, you won't be fit for your kids, and then they're gonna see like how you were like when you were taking care of them, and they might take those steps of just like not taking care of their body.
You model things for your kids.
So it's like they won't really adopt that behavior for when they get older. They might just accept gaining weight and like doing unhealthy habits as like a norm. It's like, oh, it's what we do when we're older because my parents did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then like I will say, I always like to note that of course like health inequity is a real thing. So sure, maybe some people, they don't have the amount of money to like buy all these like really quality health foods that other people do, or maybe they're not in like as nice of an area, whatever. And I think that's all the more of a reason that if right now, if you're living like, especially in sunny San Diego with all these beautiful nature areas, parks, and like you have access to good quality food, you should feel grateful and privileged to have that, and you should take advantage of that. I think
Exactly.
So the recommended exercise guidelines, me and Brandon have gone over this in a previous episode. Essentially, cardiovascularly, you should be shooting for around 150 minutes a moderate intensity exercise a week, that could even qualify as like a vigorous walk. But really, like if you're doing 30 minutes a day of some like moderate intensity movement where you know you're breathing a little harder, but maybe it's not the craziest thing, like that, you're hitting guidelines right there. And then as far as weight training, the guidelines are 2 times a week. I think for everyone, that's something that maybe not immediately, but gradually, with slowly building up, you can implement that in your life and make that a lifestyle, and it's very attainable.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like you can definitely do that even if like you don't have access to a gym.
Yeah.
You can always just like do bodyweight squats or just do push-ups at home. Or I mean, during lockdown, some people were using like rice bags.
Yeah.
And stuff. You know what I mean?
I remember seeing my roommate. He was doing squats with like the couch on his back.
Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. It's a heavy ass couch.
I was laughing. Yeah, so, I mean, really all we're trying to say here is that everything you do should be sustainable long term. There's so many people who they jump in, they're so motivated, and then they just don't sustain it.
Yep.
And, that's not what we're about.
95%.
Yeah, with the diet specifically, but yeah, just like if you actually want to like have benefits from this should be something you're like, oh, this is going to be a lifestyle change. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it should improve the quality of your life, not decrease it. There's, definitely examples of people I think where they're like, working out 7 days a week, and it's just at that point it's too much. And that, like, we don't want that either. It should be enjoyable. It should be sustainable. Those are just all things that I always like to mention there.
That's definitely happened to me where it's like I try to hit the gym every day. When it was like early working out, and I would always get stressed out if I miss the gym.
Yeah.
But when I'm going every day for a week, I'm like, oh shit, now I can't like feel good, or now the girls at school won't love me. You know what I mean? So it kind of added like a stress. Even like even in college, because like I would have like a lot of like midterms during a certain time, and then I still try to hit the gym every day, and it like stressed me out. I'm like, oh crap. So I ended up like trying to study while working out, and it just didn't work for me. So I just kind of had to accept it where it is, and had to make sure that had to be okay. Like, okay, is it really sustainable for me to work out 7 days a week?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with Diana on her podcast, the Anti-Macro podcast, and we were just saying like, exercise is a good stress, but ultimately it's still stress on the body.
Yeah.
And if you're super stressed out in your whole life, it's unrealistic to expect yourself to still exercise 7 days a week really hard and recover from that. There's a balance you're gonna have to find.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I believe it.
I love it though. I think that's good. Everyone who listened to this, the takeaways we're trying to give you is you all need to exercise. You all need to eat healthy, but find ways that's actually going to make that compelling for you.
Yep.
Why are you actually going to sustain that for the long term? Do things that you enjoy. That's going to be the most sustainable.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd add there, Brandon?
I would say probably if someone did have kids, you could probably do some active stuff with your kids, because a lot of people, they'll blame like, oh, I can't make time for the gym because of work or because my kids now. But try to like maybe do some kind of physical activity with your kids, like walk. Like play some games with them around the house if your time's that limited, or even at work you could like walk around, or if you're working from home, just walk around your home or take breaks, or if you're at the office, definitely go visit your coworker across the hall or whatever. That's one way to get your steps in. It's kind of make it convenient and sustainable.
Yep, working it into your lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
But guys, thank you so much for listening. We love doing this podcast for you. If you're interested in some personal training services, whether it be in person or online, hit me up, links in the description. If you got some pain, some aches, you need a physical therapist, we have the guy right here. We'll see you all in the next episode. I'm Brandon.
I'm Gabe.
Peace.
Peace.